perspective that the Liberty and Justice Party hopes to bring today, and not to get into any kind of rant or tirade. Um, we convened this, or at least we asked this press conference specifically to address the elections of March the 2nd. We believe that it is long overdue, and that the mechanisms that were charged with the responsibilities to execute elections have obviously not functioned in the manner that they should have, and we are looking forward to all of those things being corrected through the next electoral cycle. When we started as a political party, we had made some very key commitments, and that is to depoliticize all government institutions. And I think that that message resounds quite significantly at this time in the history of Guyana, that we need to depoliticize, especially GCOM. All of the ministries, every component of society cannot become a political instrument of any party. That being said, we have in our constitution also that the only pathway forward for a nation and for a people is through exhaustive dialogue. We intend on practicing diplomacy to its fullest extent to ensure that the issues that plague Guyana are dealt with dialogue. If not, we are going to end up in a situation sort of like what was exhibited at the Pegasus Hotel last week. And obviously, there were some ministers who, I think, whose personal space would have been violated, and we stand completely against some of those things. We ask that every Guyanese who intends on protesting do it peacefully. If you intend on protesting, or whatever it is that you intend on doing, do it peacefully. When we started off as a political party, we had actually extended an invitation to all political parties. We extended one to the APNU, one to the coalition, I should say, one to the PPP, one to ANOG, and one to FEDA, because those were the parties who were present at the time, to foster, first and foremost, a healthy relationship where we can have a healthy discussion without taking things to a point that would bring the nation or bring any segment of society to the point where we are today or where we would have seen last week. That being said, we have been very well received with these other political parties. We've met with ANOG already. We have met with the president. We have had a meeting scheduled with FEDA. However, the time did not permit us, so we might have to reschedule that. And the PPP to this point has not shown any kind of interest in wanting to have dialogue. And I think that kind of speaks as to what I'd say the leadership or the maturity of political parties and wanting to move things forward. As I have said, is that we believe that the only way forward is through dialogue. And if there are parties that do not want to engage for whatever reason, then I would personally question their motives in how much they want to move this country forward. And I will leave that there. With the March elections, March 2020, March 2nd, I congratulated His Excellency today on naming that date. I think it was well received and long overdue. We are hopeful that from now until March that all political parties will conduct themselves above board and in line with what we would look for as a stable and safe society for everyone. The Liberty and Justice Party stands very, very firmly with progress in Guyana as one of our fundamental and grounding principles. Guyana's progress cannot be at the behest of any political party. It cannot be continuously stymied by a lack of political will. And we are hopeful that after the next electoral cycle, that the clear winners and even the clear losers, even if we are part of that grouping, whichever grouping, that all of us could sit down and collectively look at what it is that we need for Guyana. By virtue of this unity, when the British left Guyana, there was a divide and rule. That is how we ended up with two parties. And it is because political actors, we permit them so much leverage in society. Look at pre-2015, when the PPP went on a tirade against the then American ambassador, and now all of a sudden it is, well, look at what they're saying. We cannot only look at these things in the context of when it favors us, but we also have to look at it as to when it does not favor us and look at it objectively. We've permitted them a lot of latitude in Guyana. The American High Commissioner, Correction Ambassador, has stated that we have to be cautious about public policy and what I'd say the local content policy. I would challenge anyone to go to the American government and deliver the same message from Guyana and come back and let us know how it was received. I would challenge anyone to go to the UK and present the same message and let us see how well it was received, or the EU. I think that we have permitted international forces to influence our internal mechanisms for too long, and these things, just as long as we have continuous puppeteering in that sense, or marionettes, then we are never going to get the solution right for Guyana, or the solutions that Guyana needs. It is important that whatever we have to fix in Guyana, we do it as Guyanese. If we wait for imposed forces to force change in Guyana, it will not be lasting change, it will not be meaningful change. And I encourage all political parties and all of Guyanese to sit there and look at things objectively, look at what it is that we need for Guyana. On that note, I'm going to invite questions and answers, and I don't have a lot of other things that we want to expound on immediately. No questions.
Just have a question. I'm Kurt Campbell, Newsroom. You talked about the other political parties, probably including yours, operating above board in the months leading up to March 2nd elections. What exactly is your party's game plan in that campaign?
As in our campaign strategy, is that what you're asking for?
More or less, yeah.
I think our campaign strategy is something that we hold close to our heart. What we intend on doing is continuing with our message and continuing with pretty much what we've set out to do to bring about change in the country. When I say change, we're talking positive. We intend on reaching out to as many of our constituencies as we possibly can. I mean, 4 months, as long as it may seem, it's still a fairly short period, the longest campaign in the history of Guyana. But in terms of above board, we've noticed that there's a lot of fear mongering, if I put it that way, in society from some political corners, and we caution against that for people not to fall victim or to become victims of what I'd say racial incitement, if I were to put it that way. I think people need to be centered in how they get things done and what it is that they need to do, and stay away from racial rhetoric. Stay away from what I'd say enraging the people.
Thank you, Brian. Given the fact that election days has now been officially announced and so forth, would the LGFP be advocating for some form of campaign financing and code of conduct along?
One of the things that we wanted to do, thank you for your question, Riley. One of the things we wanted to do was to reach out to the chair of GCOM. In fact, we have requested a formal meeting with her to go through a code of conduct. I think under the tenure of Dr. Serge Valley, there was one there. I don't know if that is still active. But we have always been champions of campaign finance legislation, not only campaign finance, but political party finance and political legislation in itself. The reason being is, and when we launched our party, it was clearly stated that we turned away quite a significant amount of money because we could not find the right source of the money. We don't know if someone wanted to use us as a money laundering scheme. And by virtue of that, I think it is important that campaign finance legislation is tabled. That is one of the things that we intend on putting within our first year when we're in Parliament, to ensure that those things are tabled and that it is addressed. when we look at what the first 100 days would look like in Parliament, constitutional reform would be priority one. Then we look at reforming all of the key ministries and ensuring that they operate based on their mandate. We have to look at how can we now stimulate the economy by revising the tax code to ensure that businesses are given that opportunity to work. How do we, we're hopeful that the local content policy does not become set right off the bat, and that we could influence that to ensure that the true beneficiaries of local content or any policy that is formed are Guyanese.
Going back to your opening statements, you touched on two things. You talked about present universal section and also the opportunity. I want to ask you of your anticipation in terms of the percentage of votes that the LJP hopes to garner at the elections, and also what's your party's position on the government of national?
Well, if you look at it statistically, 68.8% of Guyana are young people. And they feel disenchanted with the whole electoral process and the system. Whether or not they're going to go back to their base or to their camps, that is yet to be seen. Then we also have 18% are mixed population. Then we have another 11, close to 12% are indigenous people. If you were to combine those numbers, and even if we took half of that, we become the next government. That being said, when the Alliance for Change coalesced with the APNU, in principle, I think it was a good idea because I voted for them. Well, I didn't vote for them, I supported them, I didn't vote. And in principle, all of those things are good. Conceptually, it is good because that is the only way to unite the country. You don't unite a country by driving a spear in it or by inciting people to be hateful of each other. So conceptually, it was sound. I think the failings, people would have dissected that many times, but the failings happened when the AIFC chose to settle in to their chairs and not look at what they were asked to do on the people's behalf. So we've always been, and we will always be, supportive of any force or any mechanism or any framework that has as part of its mandate to bring the country together.
First, I don't know whether you have addressed this yet, but in preparation for the credible list is as achieved the utmost importance for most persons. The Ghana Elections Commission has just issued a statement which gives that every person who appears on the preliminary list elected must present themselves and their ID card at the registration office during claims and objections to allow themselves to be included in the official list of elected. How do you respond to such a request?
Well, as you know, we challenge, of course, to get to that question, we challenge, or at least I challenge, the order that was issued by Mr. Patterson. That order was not successful. Correction, that challenge was not successful, and we are still evaluating our options from there. And we have always maintained that a way to actually address the list and to ensure that elections are timely or in line with the constitutional timeline would be through claims and objections. In terms of the mechanism that exists at GCOM to ensure that is done and done to the satisfaction of their mandate, then that is not my position to say what mechanisms they use to ensure that is done. What I would like to say is that we want to ensure that there is no single Guyanese that is disenfranchised at the end of the electoral cycle. And however that process gets satisfied, it is not through continuous house-to-house registration. I think that through claims and objections, obviously, if my name is on a list, or anyone's name is on a list, I think it is their responsibility to go and ensure that A, their name is on a list, and that they can identify themselves.
That's not the request. The request is that they present themselves to the registration office, saying, I exist.
I understand that. And once again, that is a mechanism that GCOM has a mandate to address. It is not my position to influence their process.
Thanks, Greg. You did touch on constitutional reform. Now, this has been one of the oldest, probably, campaign promises that we've heard because successive governments have promised it, and upon entering office, of course, their focus and attention will change. What specifically do you intend to do, or what is your plan of action to ensure that constitutional reform can be had within the first year of office? Let's just give it that time.
Well, when Mr. Barnum or his party wrote the Constitution, the PPP championed constitutional reform all the way through and up to they got it. And then when they got in there, they made some cosmetic changes, right? So they championed constitutional reform for so long, and then they got there and they did next to nothing to the Constitution. And then the Constitution continued to exist. Why? Because it benefits them. Basically, the Constitution stacks the deck of cards in favor of the governing administration. When you look at the divine right of kings that exists in the Constitution, for example, there is no mechanism to ensure that the president adheres to the Constitution. And you're seeing the realities of that. Look at when the PDP, for example, now they're saying elections are due this, when they approve parliament. And if people are interested in objective views, just take a look at what happened to the parliament in UK. The Prime Minister prorogued Parliament. They took it to the court. It was expeditious. They said it was illegal. You cannot prorogue Parliament just to delay the inevitable, which is what Ramatar did. So by virtue of that, you would not have had the nation's interests at heart. So the Constitution is stacked in favor of the governing administration, whether that is PPP or PNC. And I would tell you right now that it is not in their interest to address constitutional reform. The Liberty and Justice Party has always expressed it. How do we intend on doing that? We intend on using whatever political clout we have in and out of Parliament to ensure that the people do that. The PPP has openly said that they're not interested in constitutional reform. This administration has shown that they're not interested. So then it now falls on our shoulders to ensure that it gets done.
That has been the fountain promise that no everybody's interested in it only at election time. And then, as you rightly said, when they get into power, then obviously when they see how much the constitution is suitable to their needs, then the need for change or reform changes.
But who is the chair of the Constitutional Reform Commission? I think that is the important question. The chair of the Constitutional Reform Commission, I think, is Dr. Jagdew, if I'm not mistaken, and he's the leader of the opposition. How do you now force something as constitutional reform through Parliament when the champion of constitutional reform is the leader of the opposition, and that person is not interested in constitutional reform to begin with? How do you now get constitutional reform? The whole system has to change. As part of the Liberty and Justice Party's manifesto and our constitution is that we are going to have continuous constitutional reform processes that are going to exist. And it is not only about championing this through elections time, it is a commitment that we've made to the people who are supporting us. If there are no more questions, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again in, I'd say, about a month, just before we go to the prorogation or potentially the dissolution of Parliament. Thank you.
Yeah.